Jason, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time to have a conversation with me. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
A little bit. So I'm 50 years old. I'm from the Midwest, Wisconsin, I mentioned. I'm here in Texas now. Been a truther for about 10 years. And YouTube channel that I started in 2012 named Awake Souls, right? So that's what I'm a YouTuber, and I'm into anything that's controversial, really. So I like to take on the biggest challenges. And so I'm a flat earther. I'm a Christian. I'm a Bible absolutist. And looking forward to talking to you.
Awesome. So tell me more about flat earth and Christianity and how those two intersect.
So how far do you want me to go back? So I was born a Christian, right? And that's because my parents were Jehovah's Witnesses. And so all of us, when we're born into the world, we're sort of like spoon-fed a belief system. And so I was given Jehovah's Witnesses from birth. And so then everybody, once they get to a certain point, they start choosing what their true beliefs are, right? So I left Jehovah's Witnesses, and I actually became an absolute rabid atheist. I was a very intense one for about 10 years. And after that, I sort of softened back to an agnostic state and started exploring spirituality paths. I explored enlightenment, and then eventually what happened is flat earth came along. I had never contemplated it before in the past. And all of a sudden it was presented. I looked into it. I couldn't debunk it. And it fit the narrative that all the other New World Order psyops run by. And so from that point, I became a YouTube creator and started sharing what I found. What
Cool.
about you?
So I was born Christian, was brought up to Christian Catholic schools, grade schools, and high school.
Well,
Had major depression.
You said Christian, but Catholic. That's not Christian, though, right?
Well, in most denominations, Christian just applies to anybody who believes in Jesus as the Savior. Catholic is just a more specific version of that. Believes in lots of other silly things as well. The whole.
But the Catholics are the one that made up the name Jesus, right? So believing in Jesus is actually a Jesuit thing?
Well, I think the name Jesus, as opposed to like Yahoo or whatever, may have been made up by Catholics, but I don't think that's really what's important. What matters is like the thing the name refers to is like, do they believe that there was a guy who was a Jew who had 12 disciples and was crucified and died for our sins and Son of God, all that kind of stuff. And if you believe all that stuff, then you're a Christian, essentially.
Jew sort of runs into that same issue as Jesus. I like to refer to them as Hebrews, right? Because Jew's one of those terms that's been made up and super politicized. So he was a Hebrew. He wasn't a Jew.
Well, I think all terms are just made up. The point is not the terms themselves, but what the terms refer to. But yes, I was Christian, had major depression for most of my life, was taught that there was this all-loving, all-powerful being who cared about me more than anything, prayed to it every day and night, read the Bible cover to cover, and nothing happened. And after that, I stopped being able to believe that there was this all-loving being who really cared about me. I didn't identify as an atheist until much later. Not until I started to research philosophy as another avenue to try to overcome depression. Learned about the new atheist guys, and I really resonated with their philosophical mindset. And I got into atheism from them. Also didn't solve the depression, but that was what caused me to start my YouTube channel. And after I started my YouTube channel, is now my full-time job, which is convenient. And that's more or less my story.
Yeah, so atheism is just a topic. I see you list it first. So that's the one that is most important to you, right?
It's the one the one that makes me money. Is it most important to me in my life? No, but it's my job.
Okay. So I noticed that I looked at one of your videos, um, and it came out that you believe in objective morality, which I was
Yep.
shocked to hear about, because me having been a rabid atheist, I knew that everything had to be relative in order to be an atheist, and that as soon as you allow an absolute, you've allowed something not relative, which is just goes against atheism. So you're in a unique position where when you're debating for atheism, you're taking the stance that a creationist takes, right?
Um, I don't know. I don't think so. So, like, a common misconception about atheism is just that you need to think everything is relative. That's not actually the case. In fact, that's not the case for the vast majority of atheists. For example, if you look at the Phil Survey's paper, it's a poll of academic professional philosophers. About 70 something percent are atheists. It's a large majority. But about 65% believe in objective morality. So the majority of atheists believe in objective morality. And that's not the only objective thing they believe in. They also believe in objective truth and rationality and logic and all kinds of things, physicalism. So most atheists believe there is objective truth and objective things in reality, which is, I think, what you were asking about creationism. They're arguing for something objective. And as an atheist, I'm also arguing for something objective. It's just not the same thing.
Yeah. So the the quandary that I get into is that anything tangible, physical, object, like you can actually measure it, anything like that, you're going to say is relative. All right. And then when it comes to,
Well, I
something
would
like
not say
morals,
that.
now all of a sudden you've got like the least objectable type things where you can actually measure it. So morals is a very hard thing to measure, but physical things like as to this is moving, that's moving, that type of thing, um, you're going to say that all of it's relative. So I don't believe that an atheist can hold on to anything objective in reality, especially something having to do with morals.
Well, I don't think the physical world is relative. I think that's objective, so not relative. Same with morals. I think that morals are. It's true that it's harder to demonstrate those. We don't have any like hard empirical evidence for them, but I do think they are also equally as objective as like the laws of physics, which I don't think are relative at all.
Mhm. Yeah, no, there's absolutes. So I'm an absolutist. I always end up butting heads with people that are relativists, and that's what most atheists are. So you and I are aligned on objective reality, which is a great foothold, right? A great starting point.
Right. I do want to clarify when you say most atheists are relativists, that is not actually the case. Most atheists do believe in objective reality.
Yeah, but they say that everything is relative to each other. So heliocentrism, um, nothing is standing still. Everything's moving constantly in four different directions at all time. Nothing's relative. There is no objective. This is
Well, that's
right.
still objective. So I agree that everything is moving in four dimensions, but it's objectively all moving in four dimensions. It's not relatively moving in four directions. It's not like it's moving in a different direction depending on which standpoint you're looking at. There is an
It
objective universal standpoint.
it is from every exact standpoint that you could possibly take. So if you had a 3D model of the universe and
Yep.
you had all the motions in place and you put a pinpoint at any one location and you turned on the view from that location, that is only one spot in time at every moment can have that objective reality. So everything else is subjective or relative.
Well, no, because you can have a universal standpoint. So, like in physics, there are different frames of reference. So, like, there's a subjective frame of reference from each different observer, but there's also a universal frame of reference. And so, there are everybody in
That's
physics agrees
that's the
there is,
absolute. That's what I argue
right?
for.
Yes, and that's what pretty much everybody argues for. There's only like an extremely small minority of people think everything is relative. Like nobody really thinks that other than the crazy feminists. So Like all physicists agree, while atheists, there is an objective reality. Most atheists, like the vast majority of atheists, pretty much all the philosophers. So everybody agrees there's an objective reality. That's not like a unique thing to Christianity or religion. That's most of
Well,
every
we're,
ideology.
we're talking about atheists though. So
Yeah,
atheists are a special breed. So
I'm
when
an
they,
atheist.
right, I know that's somebody from your team said, would you like to have a conversation with him? He's an atheist, and that's like, boom, yeah, I used to be one too. I can talk to these types of people, right?
Sure. Well, I think that's
Um,
why, like, because when you say most atheists, like, that's not, most atheists are relativists. That's not true. It's a very small minority. Most atheists are objectivists.
except when it comes to anything measurable in the world, like the ground moving or the sky moving, that types of stuff, then everything's relative.
Well, those would all be objective. Like, objective are things that are true independent of opinion. So, like, the ground moving as a, like, gravitational movements, those are all objective. Sky movements are objective. Anything that's like repeatable, verifiable through,
You're saying it's measurable.
yeah,
Measurable. So as a flat earther, I'm going to come in, and there's two main things that flat earthers and heliocentrists have a problem with, right? So it's all been boiled down for us. We're not the first people to debate this in the world. In order for it to be a globe, there has to be curvature and there has to be proof of motion. All right. So
sure.
my experience as a flat earther is that heliocentrists, when asked for their proof of this, the only two proofs that they can give are Jaron from Jaronism and Bob Nodell from the Globebusters, where they starred in a
I have no
Netflix
idea
movie.
who either of those people are.
So you're not super familiar with the flat Earth topic, then, are you?
Well, I'm familiar with the science. I don't know the people though.
Okay, yeah. So there, I mean, there is a community. Those when people look for flat Earth content, I'm sure that any person that identifies as a flat Earther knows who Jaron of Jaronism and Bob Nodell of Globebusters is. So there's really nobody that's ever heard of flat Earth that hasn't heard of these people. Mark Sargent, Eric DeBay. Do you know any of the names?
I have heard of Mark Sargent and Nathan Thompson.
Nathan Thompson. All right, yeah. So he was a hoax Christian. Was he in the debate community at all, or how did you know him?
Yeah, I've debated against him several times. Very
Oh,
entertaining.
perfect. Perfect. Yeah, like that inspires a question. We identified that Nathan Thompson was a Freemason. We saw that you had Alex Stein on in a flat Earth debate, right?
Yeah. He's a poet. I don't think he's one of the two people who I think doesn't actually genuinely believe anything he says. He's just doing it for the views.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out what part of this topic I can talk about with you
Well, you
based
mentioned
on
that you need to see curvature, which I think we see curvature, and we need to see
from
motion, and I
how
think
high
we
do
see
you
motion.
okay, you say you think we see curvature. How high do you have to be to see that
Um,
curvature?
well, to like literally see it, I'm not sure, but I usually measure it in different ways, like the laser experiment. If you take a laser and you put it on, say, the shore or anywhere that's parallel to the ground, and then you walk out about a few miles, you'll get a bunch of drops. So the laser will be above your head. And we've done that experiment several times on boats and things. And you notice the further you go out, the higher the laser goes up.
No, no. So like I actually have building and construction experience. That's what I've been doing my entire life. So I know things like how far a laser can be seen on a job site because I have to build things perfectly level, right? Concrete floors have to be perfectly level. And so to remain accurate, lasers usually have about a 1,500-foot cap as far as where they can be accurate. From that point, their beam is dispersed so much that it's no longer usable. So you have lasers that can be projected miles, that can be seen miles. These are like your 5 megawatt, whatever they are. They have to be super powerful, but they diminish. So there's so much PSYOP material as far as how far you can see something. That's one of the things that I've really focused on, is the actual distances. I'm a camera guy. I've got the P900, the P1000, and I actually go out and test how far I can see something. Use Google Earth, see what something looks like at a certain distance, all these types of things. And yeah, so our circle of sights are much smaller than most people imagine.
Well, I've literally done it. So I've taken a laser and done the experiment. So you can still see it. It's like it's a bigger circle.
Yeah,
The
it's
laser
fuzzed
is
out,
still,
right?
well,
What's
it's fuzz. It's not really fuzz. It's just bigger. So it's like the dot is bigger, but you can still clearly see it. Like you can tell which way it's pointing. It's not like the pointing direction changes. It's just like a bigger dot. So it's like it goes from being a few millimeters, whereas if you're like a mile out, it becomes like several inches large, which so it's bigger, a bigger dot, but it's still clearly you can see the red or green dot. It's not like it's changed direction.
Yeah, so yeah, changing direction. Do you know how they test and calibrate laser levels? They actually
Um,
use water levels in order to make sure that a laser is accurate. So the water level is the most perfect, accurate way to test something, right? Because you can have a mile long tube, you can have a 3 mile long tube, and then when you turn up the ends of that, it's going to mark level.
what
So the thing
is
is when you shine that laser, right,
Yeah.
you can do it alongside a water level and see that there is no curvature.
Well, that's what I did, and we saw curvature. So that's like we literally did it. So we line it up on the water level, so it's even. Then we go out, and the further we go out, the more it goes up. And it doesn't matter. You can point it directly down towards the water as long as it's like slightly above the horizon. The further you go, it still goes up. So no matter where you point it, it's going up. Like so, you can point it slightly up, slightly down towards the water. The further you go out, the more the laser will go up.
So how does that prove that you're on a spinning ball flying through space?
Um, well, it proves the curvature part.
Proves the curvature. So
Yeah.
I've put everybody to the test because I am a builder to actually tell me where I can go out and measure the curve. So I actually went to Lake Pontchartrain, which was proposed by heliocentrists to be the best way to prove that we're on a curved ball. So I actually went there with my cameras and with a drone and showed that there was a YouTuber that was creating PSYOP CGI information where he had this totally condensed bridge with cars that looked like they were going up and down these crazy curves. And I went out and filmed the entire thing and perfectly level the entire thing. I tested it from each way. I've got the videos up on the channel about it.
What is?
So
Did you do the laser experiment? Because
no,
I have no idea what using drones, how you use drones to show things or level.
well, you would have to have known what the agent was doing with his condensed. He was saying that he could actually zoom in from this hotel window, and he was showing these views along the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge. And I was able to go out and show everybody that what he was sharing is CGI. Right, so
I have no idea who that is or how taking a picture from a hotel would show the world is curved or flat. So I have no opinion on his experiment. What I would do is, have you done the laser experiment where you take a laser, point it any direction as long as it's over the horizon, and then as you go out, it goes up.
I have not done that one, but I'm going to one up you on this. And I've done something that you can do in any big mall, right? So if you have a mall, you're in Minnesota, you should be able to go to the Mall of America. So I have a video that I could do a screen share and show you the footage. It's called the Mall Angel Debunks. What is it? Mall Angel Debunks Global View of Perspective. So the global view of perspective is that things, as they are going away from you, they have to diminish in totality. I've already debated
What does that
rhetoric,
mean?
and so one of the most common proofs that a heliocentrist will say as to a flat earther is that a ship sailing away from you is the proof of curvature, right? So as it gets closer to the horizon, it's diminishing from the bottom up, and so heliocentrists say that that's proof of curvature. So,
It's good evidence.
um,
Yeah, sure.
all right. So what the mall angel video does is it actually shows that in a mall, a perfectly flat, level floor, carpeted with no atmospheric conditions that would be distorting anything, the difference between a person walking from one end of the mall to the other, right, at regular eye height, as opposed to the camera down at the floor, you can actually see a person within the length of a mall start diminishing and walking and shrinking into the floor, right, over a distance that we know is perfectly flat, zero possibility of any curvature in it. So the same phenomena happens, and what we've proven is that it's in a person's circle of sight, the height of the observer determines what the vanishing point is at the horizon. And so the ship going out away from you is not proof of curvature, because all you have to do is raise the camera's perspective, come up, and then all of a sudden it comes back into view again. And so,
How does that not prove curvature? So it seems like if the world is flat, like perfectly flat,
well, with
and
topography, nobody's
yeah,
denying topography, right?
right, right. So that's just if the world is perfectly flat, then you should be able to zoom in further and further and always be able to see them. So there's no
See, that's
limit.
that right there is one of the first things that I started talking about, is the distance that we can see to the horizon. So what do you think the farthest anything's been ever witnessed from a ground-based observation?
Um, Ground as in like water level or sea level or whatever. Probably
Attached to the ground, like a building, a mountaintop. What what do you think is the farthest thing that's ever been captured photographically, as far as the farthest thing you were able to see in your circle of sight?
probably from the guy who took pictures from the tops of Everest or whatever, and you could see the edge of the horizon.
All right. So I've been looking into this for a while. There's the fake flat earthers have a website that I don't know if it's still up anymore, but it had some ranges of like 200 miles that a mountain was seen away. What we've been paying attention to is people that try to film things like the CN Tower in Toronto, things like that, the Rockies from what's that city there in Canada? So once you're about 40 miles away from something that's really big, like a mountain or a really big building in a city, it turns out that you can't see it anymore. 40 to
Would
50
you
miles is the limit of people's circle of sight.
you mean like with the naked eye?
And even cameras capturing it with a something like the P1000, where it's got 125x zoom.
Well, those are pretty old cameras, but I know that you can use modern
You
cameras
you
to see things
understand that
now.
that camera right there actually has way more focal length than the average telescope.
Uh,
3,000 millimeter focal length. Do you know what that is?
Average telescope isn't even the average one that somebody buys at Walmart. Yeah, sure.
No, I'm talking about the ones that are like $18,000 and are these 2-foot diameter tubes.
Well, if focal length you mean by the length of the telescope, no, it definitely doesn't.
Focal length, focal length. That is measured in
That makes zero,
millimeters.
zero, zero difference to the argument here. So your camera
That's
is
how much it can zoom. The focal length is how much it can zoom.
makes zero difference.
What between a camera that can do it's 3,000 millimeters, right, as opposed to a
We
telescope.
have
You look
cameras that can see millions of miles. Like it makes zero
at
difference.
see, that's the thing. They can't. They can't. You can't see more than 50 miles.
The stars above you are more than 50. The moon is more than 50 miles.
It's not. I can prove it.
That one would be good. Okay. How can you prove that?
All right, do you see the picture in my background right here?
The sun?
Yeah.
It's not like an eclipse, right?
No, it's just a sun
Or
rising.
yeah,
It was
sunrise. My bad.
It was taken with the first P900 that I had, and so I was on a beach, and this was my first footage that I got. And it turns out that you can actually, when you zoom in, you can see clouds behind the sun. And so clouds behind the sun actually puts the sun within our circle of sight. And so we've spent a lot of time proving that clouds can be behind the sun. And so a lot of people have heard about it now. A lot of people have seen the footage. I could show you some of the proof videos.
What about it? How does it show that the moon is not 240,000 miles away?
No, we were talking about the sun. And the sun being within a person's circle of sight, if you can have clouds behind it in your circle of sight, it shows that it's local within your circle of sight. So one of the things I can prove that we're in a virtual reality, and I can do it with the things that we actually observe and witness around us. I know this a lot for you to swallow right now, but it's
It'd be
something
awesome
that
if you could prove that. It'd be very, very interesting. I did Google the longest sight line that we have, and it's the Dankova in Kazakhstan in the Hindu, and it is approximately 334 miles directly seen. It's a lot more than 50, but I
no,
wanted to go with the easiest one. The moon is the easiest. The moon is the one I'm most familiar with. We've done this with the sun too, but we can use radio waves, bounce it off the moon, and we know how fast radio waves go because we can send radio waves from one tower to a different tower and literally time it, so we can walk and measure the distance between that point and know how fast radio waves travel. And then we can use the radio waves, bounce them off the moon, and wait for them to come back and know exactly how far away the moon is by how long it takes.
Mythbusters has debunked that already. Sorry.
Has debunked what?
The notion of sending signals off the moon and having that be a proof of anything. Yeah.
I don't know how they debunk that. Literally, everybody knows ham radio waves are possible, and you can bounce them off the moon. I'm not sure what the point. Like anybody can do this.
You're gonna have to watch the Mythbusters. They debunked it already.
Well, they can't debunk it. It's fact. I've literally done it myself. So if they've debunked something I've literally done myself, that'd be very impressive. But I don't know what you're talking about because they haven't debunked that. That's
right,
literally.
Well,
we do this all the time.
We're talking about what do you do? You bounce. You send your signals. You aim them radio at waves. The moon.
Yep, and you bounce them off the moon and they come back.
So you have an array that is actually tracking the moon.
An array? You don't need an array. You need a ham radio.
How do you direct it at the moon? Direct it.
Point it like with a scope. You can install a scope and point it at the moon.
But you do understand that the moon moves through the sky, right?
Yes, the moon moves slightly
so it
slower.
Starts in the east, ends in the west. So unless if your array tracked the moon, it's not actually pointing at the moon.
So radio waves are really fast. They travel at about the speed of light. The moon does not travel at the speed of light. And so
you do know that radio waves have to be in a medium in order to travel though, right?
They are. It's called space.
That's
the
emptiness. That is the vacuum. That's the infinite void in heliocentrism.
So radio waves are a form of electromagnetic radiation. So the medium they're traveling in is
which
called,
still needs a medium.
It's a field. It's called the electromagnetic field. It's the medium. So we know they can travel through a vacuum because we can create a vacuum, and we can send radio waves through it. It's very, very easy. We have big vacuum chambers that can make essentially pretty close to vacuums, and radio waves still go through perfectly fine. Radio waves are very, very good at traveling through empty space because empty space is made of fields, and electromagnetic field is a field.
No, so you like to take it to this grandiose scale that there's things millions and millions of miles away from us.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask about. So using radio waves, we can confirm all of the facts about radio waves here in our backyards. We can confirm they can go through empty space. When we create a vacuum, we can confirm the speed by just sending it to a radio tower that we can literally walk and measure. So we can confirm how radio waves work, everything about them here on Earth, just fine. And then when we point it at the moon, it takes about 2.5 to 5 seconds to bounce and hit back. I think it's 5 seconds, either 5 or 2.5. And based on how long it takes, and based on how fast we know radio waves travel, which is approximately the speed of light, slightly slower thanks to the atmosphere. You can even assume there's atmosphere all the way over there. I don't care, and which would slow it down, so it'd take even longer or whatever. That would mean that the minimum distance the moon could be is 200,000 miles away. How could the moon possibly be any closer than that?
Because we actually observe it in our circle of sight. So the couple interesting things about the moon, one is it's two-dimensional, right? And let's see, another thing about it is that it's set throughout its schedule as far as how the light comes in and out, right? The times that it's not here, it's like in an anti-position. So the
What is
moon,
an anti-position?
well, have you ever seen solar eclipse shadows?
Sort of.
Sort of.
What is an anti-position? I don't know what that means.
Well, so when you look at solar eclipse shadows, what you actually see is, instead of it being a shadow, it's light, right? So when you look at the leaves of trees and stuff like this during a solar eclipse, yeah, look up solar eclipse shadows, and you'll see that the shadow is now light. So it's in an anti-position to the way things normally work. Normally a shadow is dark, right?
Sure.
Right, but in a solar eclipse, it's in a anti-position. So it's all proof of being in a virtual reality. All you have to do is watch the clouds behind the sun footage. You can go out and test it yourself, and you can actually see that the clouds that are within your circle of sight, right, you can actually have still clouds beyond the sun to the horizon. We've got lots of footage of it
Well,
from
how
up
do
in
you
airplanes where the sun actually rises up through the clouds.
well, how do you see the clouds are behind the sun? Because the sun is in the globe model. The sun is a very powerful emitter of photons, and the photons, when they emit them at that range, will pass through the big airy cloud thingies, and you won't even see them because the amount of light is so powerful that it'll appear as if there's no cloud in front of the sun because your eyes aren't that good. And to see a cloud, a photon has to hit the cloud and then bounce back and hit your eyes. But if there's a massive amount of light behind it, like the sun, then it'll absorb all of the light that is potentially reflecting from those particles, and it'll diffuse into the signal from behind it. And so there's no way to see a cloud in front of the sun unless it's extremely very, very thick. And so how would seeing a part of a cloud, and then not seeing the other part because it's in front of the sun, in any way show that it's behind the sun?
Do you want to look at the proof? I mean, that
Sure.
my tabs got mixed up when I had to do that reboot.
Oh, no problem.
So there's a couple we could look at, and I don't want to labor this, but I really do want to get you to see this.
No problem. Take your time. I'm not in a hurry.
Oh no. This stupid operating system.
Are you using a Mac?
Mac, I'm locked out of everything where I have to give permission to everything, and so I haven't given it to screen recording yet. And
Yeah, I hate Mac. Does Battery ask, does TJump believe in the moon landing and the ISS? Yes, I believe in both of those things. I believe we landed on the moon, and the International Space Station is a real object that we can see.
You want to talk about that?
Sure.
All right. So how much do you know about pressure?
Decent amount.
Okay. So do you know how many pounds per square inch they say are our air is at sea level?
No.
Roughly 14 pounds per square inch. All right, so look it up. I'm sure somebody will double check it. And so then going down pressure wise, I do believe that the formula is that it's 1 atmosphere per 10 meters. You follow that?
You mean as we go up, it's one
Down pressure in water
Okay.
below sea level.
Okay. Why are up?
What?
And what does it have to do with the International Space Station?
Yeah, so pressure. So pressure increases to the point where in order for something to not be crushed underneath water, in something like a submarine, you would need to have struts everywhere because the amount of pressure that is being pushing on the submarine from all sides, right?
Sure.
All right. So in the ISS, they say they keep sea level atmospheric pressure, and then up at the altitude that they're at, there
Like
is
inside of it, right?
inside of it.
Yeah.
So then up at its altitude that they say it's at, the 250 miles, there's no pressure, zero pressure.
Well, there's still some. We're not at zero, but yes, close
What?
enough. It doesn't make a
Yeah,
difference.
right. So do you understand that 14 point, what is it, 2 or something pounds per square inch? Now all of a sudden that pressure is all going out. So
Yep.
that becomes over a ton per square foot. So unless if this thing had a cage around it, literally holding its contents in, if it would have to have constant structural reinforcement everywhere to
Yeah.
withstand a ton of pressure per square foot. Literally 1 ton per square foot of pressure pushing out. This little pop can that they say is up there has no internal cross structure, nor on the outside anything supporting
Well,
it in.
it's made of steel. The steel is
Steel,
doing it.
steel would be awfully heavy to lift into orbit.
Yes. It is. That's why it was so expensive.
Steel. You understand what 1 ton per square foot, what kind of pressure that is, what kind of thickness,
So
what type of
titanium, Kevlar, and high-grade steel are common materials in the ISS.
1 ton per square foot with no structural supports in it.
Yes.
Have you ever built anything like
just,
if I were to support a deck?
clarify.
If I was to support a deck
Submarines.
where you're going to put a ton of weight on it, you understand what type of framework,
Those are really,
structure there
really
needs.
common. Those are really common. Like people build cruise ships that are thousands of tons and they have decks that are supporting this. It's not too hard. But you mentioned submarines. Like submarines go deeper underwater where the pressure that they're experiencing is greater than the pressure the ISS is experiencing. So we know that we have objects on Earth that can hold that much pressure fairly easily.
Not real
Like,
easily. So we could go into the original submarines, what they attempted with them, and at what depths that they actually failed. So not only is space fake, but the exploration of the oceans is fake. There's a overriding narrative that the New World Order has faked everything in this world.
so like the maximum depth that most submarines can do is about 2,000 feet down.
Yeah,
2,000 feet. If we want to use your calculation,
2,000 feet is not much. Yeah, my calculation was 1 atmosphere per 10 meters.
and so that's about 900 psi for the max submarine, which
Then multiply
is,
that times 144 to make it per square foot.
yeah. So it's
How
a
many?
lot
How many? Yeah, how many tons is that?
more than the ISS, right? That's which is so why is it if we can already build things that can do that, and we don't have to like go underwater to do this. We can literally just take a hydraulic press, and just press on the objects to measure how much force they can handle. And so we know they can take more force than this, since we already have materials like titanium and Kevlar and high grade steel that can already take those kinds of forces. So why would the fact that it's at 14 psi or 14 atmospheres inside the ISS and effectively zero outside make it implausible, because we already know we have things that can support that force difference pretty easily.
That's a lot of pressure, over a ton per square foot.
Sure.
That's nonsense. So one of the things that I'd like to do today is really draw the correlation between heliocentrism and atheism, right? And so from my position, I can see that heliocentrism was literally created so that atheism can exist.
Wait, what? Because atheism existed prior to heliocentrism.
All right. So heliocentrism, what do you say the roots of heliocentrism is?
That's probably Greek.
Yeah, you're getting close. You're getting
Greeks.
close. Yeah,
But
Pythagoras, right?
atheism,
Pythagoras.
probably. But atheism predates that by quite a bit. Like
Yeah,
several tens of thousands of years at least.
No. So
Yeah, so like there's societies like the Para Society, which has never had God beliefs, and they've been around as someone who believes in evolution. They've been around for millions of years, but we know humans have been around for at least 50 to 200,000 years, and so as a society, they've been atheistic for 50 to 200,000 years prior to the Greeks. They've never heard of the Greeks, so yeah, atheism's been around. And they don't believe in heliocentrism.
Can you please explain to me, so before Pythagoras, who's credited with being the first to say that Earth moves, right? Before somebody said Earth moves, right, then everybody would assume that the plane that you're on is fixed and that it's the sky that moves.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, so I believe that was the consensus. Most people believe the world was flat prior to the Greeks. Yes.
Because you could only conceptualize it being a globe unless if you said the Earth was moving. Right. So before that, how would you be an atheist knowing that you're on a flat plane? Is there any way that you can possibly rationalize existence, right, like the existence that you have right now on a flat plane without a creator?
It's always been there. Yes. I don't understand. So like there's
rationalize how you would have existed, come into existence on a flat plane.
Evolution? Like I'm not sure. Like you can make up infinitely many stories. There are many myths about how humans came into existence without gods as a part of nature, as forces, like the Buddhist and Jain myths, because they're religions that don't have gods, that existed before anybody knew the world was round. Like those are at least 6,000 years old, and they have creation stories about how we came about through different kinds of forces as an expression of karmic field stuff, without a god. And they also believe the world was flat.
All right. So really, heliocentrism is needed in order for people to have a belief system that there is no creator.
Did you just like ignore everything I just said? So James, no God.
You can't even give me a comprehensive, like, explain to me how you could explain existing on a flat plane without being created. Not just telling me that some other religion,
a magic potato bumped into a magical rock and then humans came out. Like you literally just make up a story just like the religions do. Like there are infinitely many ways to make up how humans popped into existence without a god, just like there are infinitely many ways to make up how humans were created by gods. Like it's just making stuff up.
So with females and males for reproduction, right? Everything just all arrived at once, simultaneously, right?
But you can make up stories either way. Like making stuff up works.
Also, but you're going to end up giving it. You're going to have to give credit to a creator, to a god, right?
No, why do you think that?
Because you can't even fathom the creation of how you come to exist, this world the way it is, without there being a creator. If you're on a flat plane, that's the thing that most people run into when they start to learn that Earth is flat. They start looking into it. As soon as you realize that you're on a flat plane, then all of a sudden there becomes a proof of creation. That's the reason why
I totally don't understand at all, like, the shape of the object on which we exist, and whether or not we were created by a mind or by unguided natural forces seem completely unrelated. Like, we could make up a story that there's a magical potato, and the magical potato bumped into a magical rock, and they squished each other into a flat plane, and that's the flat plane we live on. And from the magical potato, there were some germs or something, and the germs then grew into moss, and moss grew into humans, and now I've just made up a story where we live on a flat plane, and we were not created; we were just a result of random processes of potatoes. Like, why would this be hard to make up a story to explain how humans can exist on a flat plane without a god? Like, it seems like making up stories is pretty easy.
yeah, nothing rational. Like, there's how many people do you think would follow you in your theory?
Well, it seems more rational than a talking snake and a talking donkey. So, I mean, like, most religious people. Like, I don't understand when you say rational, how saying we were created by a god being who had sacrificed himself to himself because a magical rib woman ate from a some kind of a fruit because a talking snake told her to, is somehow more rational than magical potato smashed into a magical rock. It seems like both religious people who believe in a god and mystics who believe in nature could both make up stories to explain everything we see around us, because that's how creativity works. I don't understand
But so
what the difference you think is.
the difference, I think, is the Holy Scriptures, the Bible. So it's not just the 66 books. The Catholics have removed a whole bunch of extra books from it, but
Sure.
the narrative that comes from what you call the Bible is actually, it's got genealogies for up to the 2,000 years ago, all right,
Yeah.
from the first man to Christ, and then it's just been another 2,000 years. So
Sure.
we actually have recorded history that we can go through. I've got a histogram map up here that shows all the different civilizations going back, and it follows the biblical genealogy. So we actually have from Adam until Christ, those 4,000 years, the entire genealogies and the world events, right, of everything that took place. It's really just been the last 2,000 years since that martyrdom that we've been able to slip into um, such forgetfulness as to what's true, and it's all been done by the Catholic Church. So
Wait,
you
what
had
does that have to
mentioned,
do? Because, like, we were talking about why the story in the Bible is somehow more rational than a story that could be made up by secular minds or whatever. Like, we have genealogies in Lord of the Rings. Why does the ability to make up genealogies make one more rational than the other? I don't follow.
there's nothing wrong with the story. It just is. So Adam and Eve were put into a paradise, and like I'm saying, we're in a virtual reality. So they're here in this virtual world in paradise, and they were given one command, and that was to not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now
Yeah.
they ate of that tree, and now what that instigated was the learning of good and evil. So until that took place, they would not have understood what good and evil is. It had to be through the fall, through that imperfection, that we actually could see demonstrably what good and evil is. Now, you say that there is objective morality out there, and I agree. We can see that there is good and evil, and had we not gone through that process, we would still be living in a bliss, not knowing what good and evil is. Right? So
What
it's
does that
it's a
have to do with the topic
it's a
we were just
it's a
talking about?
fall. It's a fall. It's a redemption. You're trying to make this some sort of sky daddy crazy story, but that's literally the narrative of the scriptures. It's the fall from Adam and Eve, then the redemption through Christ, right? That all that believe in Him, that came and spoke about the will of the Father, the Creator, the one that made Adam, right? He identified who the true creator of the world is, his Father. He came here that those that believe in the Son of the Creator, right, might be saved. So we've been able to fall and be totally totally lost in this world where we think we're spinning around in space, and that there is no God, that there is no creator. And now we get to see who's good and who's evil. And there is a judgment time coming in the scriptures. And at that point, people, their past, their record's going to speak for themselves. And if it's not good, they're going to be punished. And then if it's good, they're going to get the type of paradise that Adam and Eve had when they were here. So that's the biblical story through and through, real quick.
Right. But the question is like, why does a story made up by a non-God is somehow less plausible than what you just said? Because it seems like the story by the Paraha, or the story by the Native Americans, or the story by the Jains, or the story by the Buddhists, which don't include God, seem to me equally as rational, which I don't think they're rational at all. But anybody can make up stories to explain how we can exist here, whether it's via a God or via a natural force. And I don't see why you think the exclusion of a creator somehow is less plausible to explain a flat earth and humans existing at the same time. Because I'm not following your logic there.
All right. So the God of the Hebrews, right? You call them the Jews, right? Do you see that they have a significant influence in the world?
What do you mean?
The Jews, do you see them as having a significant influence in the world?
Sure. Yes.
All right. So they claim to be Hebrews, right? That's their rite of passage. They're supposedly Hebrews. Isn't that what it means?
That they originate from the Hebrew culture. Sure. Yes.
Yeah, from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? So
Yeah.
the they own the world narrative, as far as they've got the ears of everybody, every television station, every movie, every newspaper. The Jays have their foothold and control in
I don't think they
everything
have
going
all
on.
of them. I think they have higher proportion than the most cultures, but I think they're still like they don't have all of them. Like obviously they don't have the ones controlling, for example, most Muslim countries. But what is the point there?
And the point is that this is the narrative that is driving and controlling the world.
Which
It's not
narrative?
the Hebrew God, the Hebrew God. So there's the
Yeah.
people that claim to be Jews, right? And they claim to represent the Hebrew God, the God of the Old Testament. But the scriptures say that they're going to be called out, that they're vipers, they're sons of the devil. All right. So the Vatican, the Jews, these are the world powers right now that you said you grew up Catholic. You were heavily influenced by them. So
Sure. Because I'm not following.
Heliocentrism is the doctrine of the Vatican. They made it up, right? The
Well, they killed
1600s.
people for it, but
Sir
like
Isaac Newton, all these people, they are Jesuits. They're
Galileo, Bruno, what's Giordano Bruno? Like they were burned at the stake for this, but by the church. But I don't see why that matters, because
the
you said
Vatican
that
says that they made up the Big Bang. They
that
made
was
up. That's
what
the
was his name?
Vatican.
That wasn't the Vatican. That was a one Catholic priest who came up with the idea of the Big Bang. Lamatri was his name. Lamatri, I think. But that's true. So somebody in the Catholic Church had the first idea for the Big Bang. That one's true. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So what it is it's all Kabbalah. So it is the Vatican that is teaching Kabbalah teachings that go back to Pythagoras. So it began there. Pythagoras had a homosexual cult where he went around telling everybody that it's Earth that's moving and not the sky that's moving. And the vegetarians too. People were called
Vegetarians.
yeah. People were called Pythagoreans up until the word vegetarian was created, just like 150 years ago. They would call the vegetarians Pythagoreans. But so Sir Isaac Newton, took up that religion of Pythagoras again. If you read the Wikipedia article on it, he gives credit to his whole belief system to Pythagoras. And so it's Kabbalah. So heliocentrism, atomism, these things are all Kabbalah teachings.
What is Kabbalah?
All right. So Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism.
And what does that have to do with Catholicism? Because they don't seem to agree.
No, the Catholic Church actually teaches the pure Kabbalah, right? They're not a true Christian religion whatsoever. There are no true Christian religions. If they were, they would be saying what the Bible says about earth. They would say that it's fixed and immovable. They would say that the sun rises and that the sun sets. So all the 501c3 churches out there are Vatican-run establishments.
So you don't think that there could be Christians who interpret the Bible more like? Do you take every word in the Bible literally?
It's all accurate. It's all accurate.
Well,
some of it's parabolic. Some of it's
right.
metaphoric.
So like when they say Jesus is a door, you don't like he's not literally
yeah.
a physical door. And so don't you think that some Christians could interpret the parts of the Bible where it says the earth is fixed as being parabolic and not like a literal statement, kind of like the Jesus door thing, without having to be Jews or Kabbalah or Catholic Church people? Like, they could just interpret it less literally, right? That's possible, and still be Christians.
That's the way it has to be rationalized for those people, right? So because the scriptures say the earth is fixed and immovable, and it's the sun that rises and sets, and then heliocentrism says the opposite of that. They have to all of a sudden take that and whitewash it and say, "Oh, that's figurative," right? When at the end, when the angels come from the four corners of the earth for the final destruction of earth. So four corners, there is no four corners on a globe or on the half dome thing that the Freemasons use,
right?
As a fake flat earth.
But wasn't like the four corners was a common phrase back then to express the entirety of the earth? Not like you don't need a literal four corners, just means because it's a parable to express the four corners of a square express the entirety of the square. So the four corners of anything would be the entirety of anything.
No, you don't say the four corners of a circle. You say the four corners of a square or a rectangle, but you don't say the four corners of a hexagon or a octagon.
Right, for shapes you wouldn't say that, but for like any kind, if I said the four corners of God of War, the video game or whatever, that would mean like the entirety of the maps of God of War. They're not squares, so it's just parable. Or the four corners of the elven world in Lord of the Rings. That doesn't mean that I'm literally saying that the elven world has four corners. I just mean that the four corners is an analogy to express the entirety of the thing. And that seems like a plausible explanation for what the Bible authors meant.
Well, actually, you're talking about video games now, and I saw that you had a video game thing up, right?
Yes,
you're into video games.
God of War, yes.
So those worlds, you understand that they're built three-dimensionally on flat planes, right?
No, like, have you ever played Kerbal Space Station?
You're going to tell me that a world's not built in a three-dimensional
planets? You can go all the way around the planets. Like No Man's Sky, you're on a planet. You could walk the entire way around the planet. It's like a space station. Mass Effect, you travel to different planets. There's a new space one that just came out where you can travel to entire planets and go around them. It's really, really good looking one. No, that they're not all in 3D spheres on a plane. But I don't understand. Like, that didn't have anything to do with what the point I was making.
Well, the point I'm making is that we're in a virtual reality, and that it's built exactly the way those games are that you're talking about right now.
Well, so we were talking about the
modeling. The modeling in those games are not doing the calculations for curvature for everything, right? You understand that all your buildings, every tree, everything would have to be calculated. Everything would have to be tipping out and away from you everywhere you went.
Right.
It would have to. It would every single ray tracing shot for every single scene, because everything would be nothing's perpendicular. Yes. Nothing's standing up straight. Nothing in a globular Earth, right?
Yes, and some games do that, but what does that have to do with the four
There's
corners
no
statement?
reason that they would ever do that, because that would just blow the computer processor right out in order to ray trace every.
They literally have round planets where they're tracing the positions of every
They do
single
the same
like
thing that
planet.
Google Earth does. When you zoom out far enough from it looks like it's wrapping around it, and when you zoom into it, you're playing on a flat plane.
No, like they literally have planets, and you're a being on the planet that can walk around in 5 seconds. So like it's literally a round object in space, and you're placing things on the round object and then walking around to place other objects. They're not they're small planets too. Like this doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense, but it
real
has nothing to
small.
do with because we were talking about the four corners. When somebody says the four corners, can they be referring to the entirety in a general way rather than literally saying it has actually four corners? And it seems like you can say the four corners of a realm in God of War, or a realm in Lord of the Rings, can refer to the entirety of that realm without specifically inferring that it has an actual four corners, right?
Yeah, so you want to argue for the people that want to say that this is just an entirety or whatever. Um,
Well, I want to see that's a plausible interpretation. Yeah.
all right, so
Why would
let's.
that not be a plausible interpretation?
Well, so the scriptures say the earth is fixed and immovable. Fixed and immovable. All right, so how does that work with? How do you get rid of that?
Fixed and immovable. So I think that would mean like ethereal fixed. So like it can't be destroyed. It doesn't necessarily mean it can't move in space, but I think it means that nothing can destroy God's creation, kind of a thing.
And the sun rises, the sun sets.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you do away with that? Have you
Well,
ever
we
filmed? Have
literally
you ever
we
filmed a sunrise, a sunset? So one
well
of the
us
things.
globers say that too. Us globers say the sun rises and the sun sets, but obviously we don't think the sun actually moves.
Yeah, so here's what a person can do to actually test this. Like I was talking about with the camera before, I've got nice tripods that I can put the camera up on, so you can go out and you can watch for a sunrise, and you can set up your tripod. And so if you don't have a good tripod, you can actually see movement in the camera, and you can tell that the camera itself is not fixed. If you put it on a really good tripod, all right, where it's rigid, you can actually see that the camera is not moving at all whatsoever, and it's fixed. Now, in order to record any of the luminaries, the sun, the moon, and the stars, right, you're going to have to point it at it, and then you're going to have to move the arm of the camera in order to track its path around you. So any rational mind understands that the ground itself has to be the fixed thing, because if you take a ring laser gyro, this is a laser interferometer, and you set it on the ground right there, the gyro is not going to pick up any rotation. You can put it on the camera on your X, Y, and Z axis, right? And it's going to tell you exactly how much it's moving, how fast it's moving, right? So
Yeah.
the base one, right, where the ground is sitting, you can have that one showing absolutely zero movement. And then in order to track the luminaries, you are all the movement, the X, Y, and Z axis is completely, right, tracking the luminaries. So Earth is fixed and immovable, and it's the luminaries that actually rotate around the observer.
Wait, we have ring laser gyroscopes. They detect 15 degrees of movement, like
No,
wherever you place them.
no, you're talking about Bob Nodell from the Netflix movie. So
That was funny. I did enjoy that.
Bob Nodell actually put a ring laser gyro on a lunch tray unfixed and manually rotated the ring laser gyro on the tray, and that was his proof that he used when he went on into that documentary and said that we measured 15 degrees of rotation per hour.
Well, I
So
wasn't
if you.
specifically speaking about him. I was speaking about literally any ring laser gyroscope that you buy and put in any ship ever. Doesn't matter whether it's docked or on a shipping platform for repairs. It's going to measure the 15 degrees of rotation. So I don't understand what your point is. Like they always measure that because it's moving.
No. Ring laser gyros absolutely are perfectly still until turned. So you could put it on, like, say, the hour hand of a clock. If you set one on the hour hand of a clock, then it would show you 15 degrees of rotation per hour, and they are accurate enough to do that. But if you take it off the clock and set it on the table, it shows absolutely no movement whatsoever.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, they literally detect movement all the time.
You're confused. I sure hope that you never build a robot. All right. Because if the robot's got an actuator arm and you think that Earth's moving 15 degrees per hour all the time, all of your measurements for the movements are going to be completely off.
So I'm looking at it. How accurate is a ring laser gyroscope? Better than 0.01 hour basis. How much does it detect in movements? Does gyroscope measure the Earth's movement? Optical gyroscopes are among the most sensitive devices available to measure rotation, and they can detect the Earth's rotation rate. When measured, they measure a 15-degree movement. I'm not seeing this, like, unless you're talking about the ones that aren't sensitive enough to measure the Earth's movement, like, they won't detect any movement. I agree, but the
No.
ones that are sensitive enough to detect the Earth's movement always detect movement.
No, 15 degrees per hour is not that hard. You can actually perceive a clock, an hour hand going around, right? It's not
I
that
think
hard to.
the accuracy is relative to like how powerful the laser is relative to like the size of the Earth, and so I think it has to be pretty powerful to be able to detect like actually the curvature of the Earth. Weak ones won't be able to detect it because the fluctuations in the power of the laser will be greater than the motion caused by the rotation of the Earth. So I think you need pretty powerful ones to detect
No,
the.
I've got a video, the DSP 1760. It's the one that Bob Nodell used in the Behind the
For the
Curve documentary.
$40,000 one.
He paid 20. All right, so they're really common. They're used in a lot of machinery. You can measure very accurately any movement, and the only way that would work is if the baseline Earth is fixed. It's the only way.
I
All right,
doesn't.
so
I don't
a
understand.
machine moving forward, all right, it has to have a base position that's fixed, and that is Earth. It's not moving. Everything else moves. You can move something along it. You can move, the sky moves, but Earth itself is not moving. And acceleration and deceleration would be a great way. I wish I could have brought up the screen share. I've got in the debate that we did against Red's Rhetoric and Sean Hufford, I've got this amazing footage of two wheels, right? So there's a marker on this wheel, and so the wheel is both spinning like this and it's traveling along in a line. So you got two motions, right? And the marker's spinning, and as it goes past a piece of glass, all of a sudden the marker makes a spirograph where it actually loops back and goes backwards against itself and back forward. So if you've ever seen spirographs and how they work, so the acceleration and deceleration with just two motions of travel, right, would be extreme. To go from a complete traveling forwards to going backwards to going forwards again. And
What does that have to do with the rotation of the Earth?
acceleration and deceleration. It would at the speeds that they say 1,000 miles per hour out at the equator, and then
Yeah.
66,000 miles per hour around the sun. At those speeds, if you actually watch how a spirograph works, when that dot comes around, it will actually backtrack on itself before going forward. So it comes to a complete stop, goes backwards and forwards
Wait, what?
again.
What do you mean comes to a complete stop? We did what?
Yeah,
Like,
the spirograph. So if you have, imagine a marker, a fine marker on the outside of a circle, right? And then that circle is being propelled forward. So as this thing is spinning and traveling forward, the spirograph path that it draws out, it will actually come to a stop, go backwards, and come back around. It's
well,
very,
I know
it's
that
one of these.
if you plot a circle on a line graph, it happens to goes like down and then up, like one of these things, which but it doesn't
That's
relative to its own motion.
that's acceleration and deceleration. And if you actually plot it out, you'll see that it actually travels back on itself.
From one perspective, it does that, but from its own like motion, it doesn't ever decelerate. It's still going in the same accelerations every time. I don't
No,
understand
no,
why you
it's
think
not.
it's decelerating. What is it
You can actually see it.
decelerating
You can
relative
actually
to?
visually see it with this demonstration, right? You can actually see the marker head, its acceleration and deceleration points. You could put tracking devices on it and see at what speeds it's traveling, when it comes to a stop, the other direction that it travels, the rapid acceleration, the rapid deceleration. Have you ever been on the carnival rides where you're in a spinning thing, you know, the teacups, the
Yep. Yes.
tilt-a-whirl, all these things? So the
Yeah.
reason why you get the big pull on some of these moves is because all of a sudden the acceleration and deceleration, because of the different paths of motion that you're going through. And that's literally, the earth is supposed to be going.
Well, that's like saying if I see a car coming towards me, like say I'm standing on a bridge and a car is coming towards me, and the car passes beneath me. That's like saying, well, the car has decelerated and then started to accelerate in the opposite direction of me. Well, no, it hasn't. The car's gone in a single direction going straight, but its motion relative to me is the opposite now. And the same thing applies on when it's traveling in an orbit. It doesn't stop and then go the other way, just like a
No,
car that
it
stops
does. You
beneath me.
literally can just watch the marker in this physical display. You can literally click frame by frame and watch the marker go around, get to its bottom point, loop back on itself, right? It's a spirograph. And so it's not something that we need to argue about. The proof is real, it exists, and there would be massive acceleration and deceleration. Massive.
Again, that's like saying that if a
Pulling
car
G's.
passes you, it
No,
changes
it's not.
direction. It does.
No, it's not the same whatsoever. There's no comparison.
Okay, well, we
Yeah.
move on to the next topic then.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about?
How does this, what were the other things? Creationism, I think, was one of the things, and then biblical cosmology. That was the other topic. Is that right?
Yeah, so biblical cosmology is a great one. The oldest book in the world, right, is the Book of Enoch. Right? It actually came across during the flood on the ark with Noah, and we still have it. So we have the entire book of Enoch that was given to Enoch before the destruction of the world by flood. All right, so Enoch has a book called The Course of the Luminaries, and the Course of the Luminaries literally spells out the entire day that we have perfectly, even talking about the gates that the sun rises from. I know you probably haven't seen any of the videos, but we have it shown in our circle of sight, Enoch's 6 gates that he talks about, the exact where the sun is at in each gate during the time of the year. So we're going from equinox to like the spring equinox to the summer solstice to the fall equinox to the winter solstice, and literally has the entire path of the sun and the moon spelled out in a short little book that is precisely accurate to what heliocentrism says about the paths. So he had this, we're close to 6,000 years ago, right? And it's the only book in the world that has the actual course of the luminaries, and it's accurate. So right there is another way of giving credit to the Hebrew creator God that Enoch served.
Well, so there's a bunch of things there that I'm a little skeptical of. So the oldest writing we have is the Kish tablet, I believe. That's 3,500 BCE. I don't Enoch. The ones we have were written like 200 BCE at the oldest, or 200 BC at the oldest. So I have
Yeah.
no idea where you're getting why that's the oldest.
The text has survived. So in fact, this is the genealogies from Adam to Enoch. It gives the right up until Noah. So Enoch had the course of the luminaries. And this survived the flood with Noah. The
But you
book
said there
still
was you said it was
exists.
the oldest book, right?
Yeah. So I mean, we don't have the original text right now,
Right, but
but
like
it was It
The
was
Kish tablets are older than that, right? They're an older book.
they predate the flood. No, everything else was destroyed in the
I don't
flood.
know what your time frame for the flood is, but they were created in 3500 BCE. So is that before when you think the flood was?
The flood was about 2,500 years before Christ, I believe.
2500 BCE.
Yeah.
So yes, these would have been written 1,000 years before when you think the flood happened.
All right. So I know it's BS because they wouldn't have survived.
Okay.
Right.
Well, it still could have survived because it's made of rock, so it could have survived the flood. Because lots of things could potentially survive a flood if they're made of objects that don't decay in water. But like the world flood, we know didn't happen, so I think there's a problem there.
Mm. So the geology thing is one that we could just argue about forever. You're going to say that things are carbon dated. And
Forget the carbon dating. I don't care about the carbon dating. It's physically impossible for that amount of water to exist on the planet, and the amount of energy that would have been expressed by causing that amount of water would have vaporized everything. So it's physically impossible for the world to have flooded like that because there's literally not enough water, not enough H2O molecules on the planet to do that.
see, you're thinking in the terms of planets. So we're in a virtual reality. One of the things from the scriptures that you can tell right away is the days of creation. So within the days of creation, the Bible actually, this is the support of being in a simulation. So day one, day and night was created, right?
Yeah,
The light and the dark.
sure.
Right. Day four is when the luminaries were created.
The what?
The luminaries. So the sun, moon,
Oh,
the
gotcha,
stars.
gotcha.
Right. So day one, day and night created. Day four, the luminaries created.
Yes.
So when you create in a 3D rendered world, right, you need to have light in that world in order to actually see what you're working on. I don't know if you've done any 3D modeling, but you actually have to have a light source in the 3D model room in order to see what you're working on, because the way they work is they're actually picking up.
So I've
if there's
done
no
a
light source,
considerable amount of 3D modeling. So I learned CAD and SolidWorks and 3ds Max in high school as a part of my programs. You don't need a light source in 3ds Max to see the thing. You see that you can add lights like last, and it makes no difference. Like you don't need light sources. Like lights are a separate asset that you can add in independently of anything. In CAD, you don't add any light sources in because it's all just mathematical representations.
well, you're missing the fact that there has to be an ambient light on in the build of the studio, an ambient light source. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to see any of the things that you modeled, unless if you were just looking at pure skeletons of stuff, right?
Well, they can be illuminated without lights because in the model, the object itself emits light. When you have a pixel that represents the object, the pixel can be turned on simply by the mathematical representation of the object. You don't need an actual light source to reflect off of the pixel. It just turns on when you say turn on.
The point is that in materialism, right, in heliocentrism, that you would have to have had the stars, the sun, the moon, the stars, in order for there to be light first, right? So the days of creation are for a virtual world, not for a physical heliocentric model.
So I'm not understanding how the creation story is evidence of the Matrix. How does that work? Like, why can't it just be made up?
What?
The creation, the biblical creation stories. It seems like it's just made up.
Well, you can think that if you want.
Well, no,
but
so
you're not looking for a creator, right?
Well, no, so just to clarify,
You're trying to disprove that there is a creator. You're
no. I'm not like making a strict argument here. I'm saying that you were claiming that the biblical creation story is evidence we're in the Matrix or something like that. And in philosophy, for something to be evidence of a proposition, it has to be evidence against another proposition. So if like multiple different positions make the same predictions, then it wouldn't be evidence for either one over the other. And so if, for example, the story that we see in the creation story could be explained both by we're in a matrix and it was just made up, it doesn't seem like that would be evidence we are actually in a matrix, because it's evidence for both.
No, that's the reason why there's so many other ways to prove it. I know you're not interested in it, but the clouds behind the sun is a great way. You can actually test it, verify it, go do it yourself. And once you start paying attention, you'll actually see that you can see it with your own eyes, right? You don't even need a camera to do it. Once you get
What can I
trained in it,
see?
you can see the clouds behind the sun within your circle of sight. We've for the
Well, how do I
last
see that?
five
Because to
years,
me, like from my worldview, it seems like the sun is powerful enough to go through most clouds, and so it would
you can actually
appear.
you can actually put filters on the photography that you have, stuff like the emboss filter that'll show you when a texture is in front of or behind something. So I've had the videos for many years showing with the emboss filter when there is clouds in front of and when there are not clouds in front of but actually behind, and you can actually see all the lights pointing, the shadows coming together. And
How does
the
the
sun
emboss
is
filter show that the clouds are behind the sun? Because as far as I know, like emboss filters aren't powerful enough to like overcome the photons of the sun. I don't understand how that works to accomplish that. How does that work to accomplish to show that clouds are behind the sun?
so the with the emboss filter, you can test it on anything that you want, things that you know are in
Sure,
front of and behind it, right?
sure.
So when you do that, you can see when there's the texture of something that's over. So with the sun, you have the disc, which is perfectly smooth in the emboss filter. If there's no texture in front of it, right? So the disc of it will be perfectly smooth, and then you'll have the texture. If the clouds are in front of it, you'll see the texture across it. Now, if there's clouds in the background and the sun moves over those clouds and it's still a perfectly smooth texture, you can actually see the layers that it's in between. You can see your background layer, you can see your middle layer, and you can see your front layer with the emboss filter. And you can do it in any situation. And you'll see that once you use the emboss filter, you'll see that there are clearly clouds behind the sun. There's so many setups in the way it's been filmed where you can actually see the sun disappear into a cloud that's within your circle of sight. You see well beyond to the horizon still.
Well, an emboss filter, what it does is it magnifies low contrast areas. Like if you're looking at the sun, you don't have any low contrast areas. So like it, I don't understand how you could use an emboss filter, which detects low contrast areas and then like enhances edges in the directions of the selected convolution mask, and look at the sun, which will show no low contrast edges because it's the sun, and use that as a way to try to tell what things that are in front of or behind of the thing that has no contrast when you're using a contrast filter.
So crepuscular rays, all right, they point directly to the sun. We've got anti-crepuscular.
Crepuscular means like made of like a corpuscle, like a ball of light, a photon. How does that tell what
They point directly to the location of the sun, right?
you
And
mean,
you'll
like
be
where
able
they
to see,
come from? Like what do you mean
yeah,
point directly?
all the rays, right? Crepuscular, you have anti ones that go up, you have the crepuscular that come down, and they all point to the location of the sun. And now, if that sun is in a bank of clouds well before the horizon, right, the sun is in that bank of clouds right there in your circle of sight. It's very measurable, it's very discernible.
Well, all of the corpuscular sources of light come from the sun because the sun emits them. So they will never not come from the sun. They'll always emit from the sun. Like
Yeah,
whether
but
it's in front of or behind, they're always going to point directly at the sun.
yeah, but at 93 million miles away, the light is got to be perfectly parallel rays. You can't have them in your circle of sight all pointing to this one bank of clouds where all of a sudden it's in that bank of clouds. You feel the temperature drop. You can see the lit horizon all around you, right? You can see that the sun is creating the shadow on the ground in that specific area in your circle of sight. It's for the person that pays attention, you can actually see that the sun is within your circle of sight, within a roughly 50 mile range.
So I'm not sure what you're arguing there. So like if the sun was 93 million miles away, light would not be able to go everywhere or something, because it's covering every inch of the Earth. Light is hitting there, so it's going everywhere on the Earth directly from the sun.
Yeah, you imagine them as all parallel rays, but we can actually see within our circle of sight that they point to a
Curve?
very, I don't know if you know what crepuscular rays are.
Well, like, so rays of light do curve in the globe Earth
We're not
model.
talking about curving rays of light.
Okay.
We're not putting lasers into fish tanks. We're not doing any of that. We're talking right. We're talking about things that we can actually go out and witness and observe each day.
Okay. Um, so I mean, not all corpuscular rays of light are parallel. Like, that's not a thing. They're like
No, I know.
curves.
All you have to do is Google the image and you'll be able to see that they're not parallel. That's the anti-heliocentric.
But we know, like, it's not parallel from a flashlight also.
Yeah, they project beams. But what else do you want to talk about? There's
What else? What other interesting topics do you have for us? What other interesting arguments from flat Earth are typical of, like, other flat Earth debates?
well, so what makes me different is that the majority of flat earthers all promote a false dichotomy, right? So the false dichotomy is a circular pressurized pizza dome flying through outer space, and it's utter nonsense. So what happened to me is when I came and first learned about flat Earth, started looking, they presented this model, which was an absolute psyop. They gave the evidence that there's no curvature, that there's no motion, right? So I knew that the heliocentric model was impossible. So I bit on the fake flat Earth psyop model for a little bit until I actually tried to model it myself, and that's where I got stuck because they deny Earth having two poles. So one of the things that I've Ronnie Harris of the Limitless channel, myself, we've put forth a model. It's called stereographic virtual reality explained. And so what that does is it shows two polar points on a flat plane that we're actually, with our model, we're able to show the location of all the luminaries, the sun, the moon, and the stars, to within 100th of a degree per second anywhere on Earth, all done on a flat plane any time of the day. And the only thing is it works as a stereographic virtual reality. So what we put forth is what we feel is like the ultimate type of virtual reality, where had we the goggles and the hearing and the haptic suit over our entire body, that you were able to experience everything that we do with our bodies right now. It's all real, everything that we're going through, but in a virtual reality. And so who created it is a really important topic because
So I'm not following your sentence here. So you said the difference between you and typical flat earthers is that they normally present a false dichotomy between the flat pizza pan Earth and the globe Earth, and you present something different, which is
stereographic virtual reality.
and that's different because, how is that different?
It's
I
got
think
two
that's
poles, like I said. It's got two polar points on a flat plane, and that all the sunrise set angles we've got to 100th of a degree per second, right? Any location, any day, and yeah,
So
it's
what is the shape of your model, which is not either a pizza pan or a globe Earth? What, like, could you give us an analogy of what the shape of yours looks like in a way that differentiates it from the pizza pan and the globe model?
it's got four corners, right? So it's either a square or a rectangle.
Is a flat square, like,
Flat,
on a sheet of
flat.
paper?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. With two polar points. So stereographic. Have you ever heard of anything being stereographic before?
I've heard of it, yes.
Okay, so it's really the principle behind 3D, right? You have the two polar points.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a flat map with two polar points that I mean it works. So we didn't hand draw this map ourselves. So it was presented. There was a 1894 version. C.S. Pierce had the oblique Mercator. It's the same principle. It's a map that has two polar points on it, and now we just have a higher quality version of it. It's recognized as being the world's most accurate map, and it's got to be stereographic. I mean, you know that you would never not use a stereographic map if you believe that you're on a globe. Right? It just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
If you were going to try to project an image to a sphere, the most accurate way that you could do that is stereographically.
Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with that. I know that there is the map that I've seen that is actually the most accurate flat Earth map was a Japanese guy made it, but I'm familiar that you do need to use a stereographical principle to do that. But I think his is the most accurate map ever created, the most accurate flat Earth one. It's very interesting though.
Yeah, no, so stereographic maps, obvious. Why would you ever not use one if you're going to say that Earth has two poles? You obviously should plot those poles on your map, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so that's what we've done, and that's what we've shared. There's no curvature found anywhere. There's no movement found anywhere. We can actually plot the paths of the sun, moon, and stars, the eclipses, and how that works. Um, pretty much got it all. I don't know what's left to say for heliocentrism now. I've got a debunk video that has 6 heliocentric debunks in it. That each one is absolutely bulletproof. I can show you when heliocentrism. I can show you when heliocentrism says that eclipses are impossible, right, based on the model, and then I can show you when eclipses have taken place that debunk heliocentrism. So I wish I had been able to screen share, but if this is the kind of stuff that interests you, we could always do something like this on my channel where I've got the ability to show all the graphics, much higher quality. But I know you like to get paid, and I do this all for free. Would you ever be up to?
Oh yeah, I can like multi-stream. So if we can do it from your channel, I can just screen capture and send it to mine. So that's fine.
Okay. That would probably make more sense than us like sort of bantering back and forth. If we were able to set up something where I could show everybody what I'm talking about, so it's not just words.
Sure. We do have some questions from the audience, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. So a Limitless asked what game I'm playing. I'm playing God of War, the new one, Ragnarok. Geoff, has Awake Soul ever experimented with setting up his own Foucault pendulum?
All right. You do know that Foucault pendulums are powered, right? Powered.
Well, I don't know if he can respond from the chat, but yes,
you understand that, right?
Yeah, but they're not directionally powered. But yeah,
they are powered, because otherwise it would be proof of perpetual motion, right? And you can't accept that. So they're literally powered. So
but they're not directionally powered. So they're not like sent in a direction. So they're just given enough momentum to be able to move.
That's BS. It's BS.
Okay. Travis Statham asks, can he show us a model? He can't share screen right now, but when we do the follow-up on his channel, he can probably show it.
Mm-hmm. If you go to my channel, it's Stereographic Virtual Reality Explained.
Blaze, not Pascal. If he has a car, then the pressure difference between the atmosphere and his tires is greater than the ISS and the vacuum.
That's complete and utter nonsense.
That's testable. We can test that one.
Well, 35 psi as opposed to well, all right. No, I see his point. I see his point. Still sea level sea level against no pressure is still about a ton per square foot.
ISS. Pressure in the ISS is 3 to 4 psi. Pressure in your car is 30 to 35 psi.
No, if you read about the ISS, they say sea level is what they maintain the pressure at.
Sea level air pressure is 14 psi, whereas a car is 35 psi.
Yeah, I got you.
Geoff, how does the flat Earth model explain stars tracking counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere, or the different constellations in the southern and northern hemispheres?
Yeah, so the fake model does not. All right, the Freemason New World Order flying pressurized pizza dome through outer space only has a single pole. It doesn't have anything to do with, it can't handle the clockwise rotation in the southern. Right? So the model that we're showing stereographically, the sun, moon, and stars are rotating around the observer where the angle that it's set to. So if in the north, the pitch is set to Polaris, and then in the south, it's set to Sigma Octans. That determines where your celestial equator is in the ecliptic. And so we've demonstrated it. We've got the software that shows it all, that the way it rotates around you in your circle of sight, you'll have to watch the videos. We're the ones that can actually show how the stars work in the south. Right? That's one of the things that we focused on.
Do they actually go in a different direction than the ones in the north?
So when you're facing south and you're looking at the celestial pole, the Southern Cross is next to it, Sigma Octans, you'll see the stars rotating, all right, clockwise.
Yep.
Now, if you're you can only see that if you're south of the equator. If you're at the equator, the poles are flat on the horizon. All right, so you have to go south of the equator to bring it up to actually see that rotation. And then to the north, when you look north, the stars are rotating anti-clockwise. All right, so
right. And the question is why is that the case in your model, in the flat Earth model?
You have to look at the way. I wish I could show it. You have to look at the way the stars rotate around the observer. How do I show, right, that from horizon to horizon the stars are that tilt? If I go to the equator, now all of a sudden the celestial equator is straight up, and then if I go south, it's tilted behind me, and now I'm looking south. So
well, yeah, if I'm on a ball, that makes sense. Because, like, if I'm on one side, it's rotating one way, but if I'm on the other side, it's rotating the other way.
What I used to demonstrate it's on a flat plane. It's all, yeah. I can't do it with words. I have to actually show you.
Gotcha. All right. The next question is from Jeff. Geoff, could the creator exist and the Earth be round?
It could, right? And that's what I thought. That is what I thought. But it's not the case. So are you willing to accept what is my question.
Sure. Always. That's the goal, is to accept as many true things and as few false things as possible. Gleep Glorp asks, is it all scalar illusion if you are in a rowboat on the ocean? 2-inch waves are rough seas. If you are on a cargo ship, the same 2 waves look like a flat ocean. I think he's referring to the thing you were talking about
with the mall angel.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. The resolution super important. That's one of the things that we're constantly talking about. Try filming something 10 miles away from you sometime and zooming in on it and seeing how clear it is. Then try filming something 20 miles away from you and zooming in and seeing how clear it is. One of the things that you'll notice is that when you zoom in on the moon and you get it in perfect focus, right? The focus
Yeah.
is not at infinity.
What?
It's not
What does that
at
mean?
infinity.
What do
So
you
it
mean
means
not
that
at infinity?
it's focusing closer than infinity. So if I pan over, I'm filming the moon, and then I film over and I'm filming some buildings that are 10 miles away.
Yeah.
All right. The focus that I have on the moon, the focus that I have on the buildings 10 miles away, I actually have to set my focus to infinity for the buildings 10 miles away. For the moon, I actually have to focus a little bit closer. So these are one of the things that you can go out and test yourself. See where the moon focuses at. It's not at infinity, right? It's a little bit closer than that. And then test it against the buildings in the area around you. So our circles of sight show me evidence of footage of something 50 miles plus. I've got a couple of pieces where somebody's shown something like 62 miles, and that's the farthest so far.
All right. On the right, thank you for the super chat. In Behind the Curve, Mark said that we can see boats disappear over the horizon, what looks like the horizon because of the Coriolis effect. Please explain what it is and how we can overcome it in experiments.
Yeah, the Coriolis effect is nonsense. It's a heliocentric belief system that would be necessary if Earth were rotating.
So the Coriolis effect is if the Earth is rotating an object that's traveling like a bullet or whatever is going to be moving relative to the rotation of the Earth, and so you're going to have to calculate that relative motion to know where it's going to land. I think that's what it is. And how would you explain how you would overcome it in experiments? You would have to, like, you can calculate the expected motion and with and without it. And if you calculate the motion without it and get wrong results, then that's how you would differentiate and overcome it in experiments, is if you calculate it correctly or incorrectly and get different results than what you calculated. Mr. E. Arthur asked, the Bible has a cure for leprosy by sprinkling the blood of a bird. Do you believe this is true? If no, why is it not true, but the flat earth belief is true?
So how do you even talk about this where if we're in a virtual world where you bring in old age, sickness, and death, all right, and then as a result of sin, so you go from the fall, sin enters the world. Now humans have to actually work, they have to sweat, they have to do all these things. So in a virtual world, adding pain, suffering, work, the need for food and water and all these types of things are parameters that can be set on a character. And then so rituals like blood sacrifice, the sprinkling of blood for things like this, has to do with, if you're going to teach a lesson in this world, if you're going to have a moral code in this system, if how can you do anything without some sort of ritual that actually sort of defines what's taking place? It has to be emblematic in some way for anybody to actually learn any lesson, right? So if you were going to atone for anything that you did, emblematically, you would have to show some sort of repentance. So now all of a sudden you just have an act that can be done that shows the repentance. It's necessary for us to have ways to be able to show that I support this, I'm in compliance with that. I don't know.
So I think the question is if you take all of the Bible literally, then do you literally believe that sprinkling the blood of a bird will cure leprosy?
Yeah, if that's what was said. So by doing this and the person did it, then they were healed. Yeah. So the blind man that was told to put the eye salve on his eyes, he put the eye salve on his eyes and he got his eyesight back. So
So like there's one in the Bible where it says God says that you can take a cloth and put it in a jar of water and pray to him and he will light the cloth on fire. You think that will work?
I'm not familiar with that one, and I'm very familiar with scripture.
It's the one Pine Creek uses all the time. But yeah, it's definitely one of the examples because it says how God can be tested or how to test God or something. It's one of those kind of quotes.
I'm not
Doug from the
not sure
Pine Creek
that's
channel is very familiar with it if you want to check it out. He uses it all the time. But it's definitely a legitimate Bible quote. I mean, that is for sure. Winston's mom asks, does Jason believe there are space lasers affecting our election results? And I will not state which country, but Marjorie Taylor Greene will.
space lasers. No space lasers. So one of the things that I like to point out is that the actual height that something can make it to is about 230, 240,000 feet. If you look at lighter than air vehicles, which I mean, the lightest ones are hydrogen filled balloons. So weather balloons can be lofted up and eventually they get to a point where all the materials will eventually hit a rupture point and they'll come crashing down. So that happens up in the low 200,000 foot range. And so that's where there's no more pressure, is it around that height. So that also means that there's nothing to push off of for rockets. I've studied some of the footage that is available as far as highest amateur rockets, and it does look like they were able to set a record in the 300,000 foot range. That sounds viable and real because of the amount of acceleration that it had shooting upwards. But other than that, a sustained flight above 200 and some odd thousand feet is in my opinion, absolutely impossible because that's as high as a lighter than air vehicle can go.
Gotcha. Next question was Pope of Atheism. Does he hold that the position of under the earth realm, does he hold the position of the under earth realm, i.e., of the upside down?
Not into the upside down. I do believe that there are multiple layers to heaven and hell, so up and down. But the way you would visualize it in like a video game type setup where you could, I'm sure you can visualize it.
Gotcha. Next question is from Marikai. Ask him how plate tectonics work on a stereographic Earth.
We don't have that much evidence to go by as far as seeing the actual plates moving. We know that there's earthquakes. We know that it shakes, but we don't have any trustable evidence that the plates are actually moving, continents getting closer to each other. And if it does, it takes over such a long time period that it goes well beyond a person's lifespan. We've only had cameras for a certain amount of time. So I don't see any real evidence of plates moving towards each other than what we see in earthquakes. We'll get a violent shock here and there, but we don't get closer to another continent as that happens.
Oh, there was a clarification on the previous question. I think he was asking, what do you think is on the underside of the Earth?
Underside. It's a stereographic virtual reality. So whatever the creator designed, it I doubt he just put people upside down for the fun of it. It just makes sense for everybody to be right side up. The Earth we know is about 8 miles deep. That's the deepest they've ever been able to dig. And like I said, there's not evidence for going higher than 300,000 feet up into the air.
So do you think like the underside of the Earth is kind of like on a 3D modeling thing where it's just blank because you see through it and see the surface, so it's like kind of empty?
Yeah. But also that's described that there's the hells. So at different layers, right, different hells. And that's what I was trying to say before, is that you think of dungeons in a video game or whatever, the different levels, working your way down lower and lower to the worst and worst. It's anything that you want to create in a virtual reality. We could design it to be any which way we wanted, but this is what we got. We got Earth with the land, the plants, the animals that we're familiar with.
Gotcha. Question. Thank you for the super chat on the right. He asks, what conspiracy theory is too crazy for you?
Thinking that there's no conspiracies, that there's no organized group effort to psyop everybody. That's too crazy.
Gotcha. Next question is from Whistler. How do equatorial mounts work on a flat plane?
Yeah, the X and Y axis. So you have an azimuth and an altitude, and the azimuth and altitude gives you a location. So the sunrise, sunset angles, these are all measured with azimuth and altitude. I've got multiple tripods, and it tracks perfectly, absolutely perfectly with those two measurements in your circle of sight. And it's all based off of your flat plane around you. We've got all the tools to show all the measurements and how that those measurements relate to a flat plane, that there's no curvature. It's not, you're not adjusting based off of your latitude. You're not adjusting for change in elevation, right? Change in declination. You don't have to get an adjustment for your latitude. And the heliocentric model just goes from 0 to 90. So that only works on a flat plane if there's no adjustments for your altitude at different latitudes.
Gotcha. There's also a comment that says that the water, the piece of cloth filled with water in a jar was from Elijah in 1 Kings 18:30, something like that. That's the quote from where God can set the watery thing on fire. So just clarification.
I do know about Elijah with the water and the sacrifice. I just didn't know about the cloth. Yeah, so he was mocking the Baal worshipers. He asked them to perform a sign and miracle, and they were supposed to start fire. So he actually doused it with water. He doused the whole thing with water, and then called down fire from heaven, and it licked up the sacrifice and the people that were the false worshipers. So cool one with Elijah there. Yeah.
Next question is from Mr. Creening. He asks awake souls why we all can't see Mount Everest from here.
Why can't you see more than 50 miles from where you're at right now? Right, start paying attention to how close everything is within your circle of sight. This idea of being able to see more than 50 miles is nonsense. You've never done it before. Go out and start recording with some high power zoom stuff. You're going to see that you rarely ever see something 50 miles away.
Gotcha. Good question asks, are there any astronauts above the clouds?
Above the clouds. If you're going to call people that fly airplanes astronauts, because that's about as high as you can go, right? So an airplane has a cabin pressure where they're limited, where they can't exceed the air pressure of 8,000 feet. So cabin pressure has to be like 8,000 feet or less. So that limits how far an airplane can go, because you got to have a pressurized cabin. You go above 8,000 feet without the pressurized cabin, you end up losing oxygen. That's the reason why people climb up to the top of Mount Everest. You got to have oxygen. It's hard to go. It's hard to go up too much higher than 60,000 feet is about as high as airplanes really say that they can go. Above that, there's no more pressure. At that point, you have to be in the spacesuit type thing, right? Because no longer can they maintain pressure in the vehicle anymore. So having a pressurized cabin in a super high altitude plane is going to blow up the plane. That sort of goes back to the ISS not being So if you got to go into the pressure suit at 60,000 feet, all of a sudden getting up 250 miles, nope.
Gotcha. Reno asks, can you ask Awake if he could tell us the date of the next lunar eclipse, but no cheating and getting answers from the Globers?
Yeah, all the eclipses have to do with the path of the angle of the sunrise to sunset with its solar noon declination, paired up with the moon's path being the same, having the moon be in like a no moon phase where it doesn't show. So there's your solar eclipse, and we can predict them the exact same way the heliocentrists do with the exact same data from a flat plane, right? That's what we've been sharing. Now, can you explain, is my question, solar eclipse shadows, right? Where the shadow is now light. You can't, but I can. So.
Gotcha. Mr. Crean asks, will Awake Soul give permission to be infected with plague knowing you can be cured biblically?
No, I don't want any plague.
No, he's saying that because the Bible has a cure for the plague, and if you trust the Bible's cure, would you be willing to test that by being infected and using the Bible's cure to cure you, kind of a thing?
I'm willing to sacrifice my life for the creator of this world at any time. I'll do whatever he tells me to do. If he says do this, I'll do that. If he says do this, I'll do that. I'm not going to let somebody else in the world just do something to me as a guinea pig type thing without actually having heard from the creator that he wanted me to do something. So I'm not going to randomly test the creator. I could do that just by jumping out in the middle of the highway or going skydiving without a parachute. It's
Gotcha.
Right? Just a random test seems sort of nonsensical.
That's the First Kings thing. Did God drown infants, babies, and toddlers and children in the Great Flood? From Jeff.
Everybody except 8. Every living thing except for 8 was destroyed. And the animals,
yes,
animals
on the
that were
babies.
saved.
I think he's implying that killing babies is immoral. God killed babies, therefore God is immoral.
He created humans. All right, created the plants, created the animals, created the trees, and when they went corrupt, he decided to save what he wanted and destroy everything else. Which is anybody that creates anything. Right? If you're the creator of it, you have the authority and power and control over it, right? If it doesn't turn out the way you like it, if I'm building a house and it doesn't turn out the way I like it, I can tear it down and build it again. It's my prerogative. I'm the one building it, right?
I don't think so. I don't think if you create a conscious agent, you have the right to do anything you want with it. I would say no. But
what if the creation is absolutely immoral against what you say are absolute moral, objective moral truth? So what if the creation is going against the objective morality and can't even be coerced to stop being wicked?
Well, I'd say that it would be immoral for me if I created a conscious agent to force that conscious agent to do anything, regardless of whether or not it was moral or immoral.
All right. So if you created a virtual world, right, and then you had some character in it that just went around killing everybody, what would you do? You just allow that?
Oh no, I'd create a world where it would be impossible to force anyone to do anything they don't consent to doing, and so it would be impossible for a being I created to harm another being unless the other being consented to it. So he could be as evil as he wanted to and have whatever desires he wanted to, but if it's physically impossible to force anyone to do anything they don't consent to doing, then it doesn't really matter. You can disagree as much as you want, and that's the way I would design the world if I was all powerful being.
Yeah, you would have gridlock. Nothing could be accomplished because all it would take is a single person to disagree with something you wanted.
They can all disagree and do whatever they want. They each get their own universe. They can design it however they want, essentially.
Mhm.
You just can't force anybody to enter your universe without their consent. So you can get everything done.
Well, obviously, everybody that's here consented, otherwise, they wouldn't be here, right?
I wish that would make the world more moral, but I don't think that's how the Bible phrases it. I don't think I don't think the Bible gives us an option to come here before we get here. He just kind of like poofs us here
Yeah, you're
without
here.
consent.
Yeah, there's no denying that you're here.
All right. Next question is from Travis Statham. Can you ask him if faith plays a role in his belief?
No. So what happened was like I told you, I was born Jehovah's Witness, turned into an atheist for roughly 10 years, came back through like spiritualism type path, and then it was flat Earth that actually reconfirmed me as a Bible believing Christian. So it was through testable, observable reality, seeing that Earth is a fixed plane that's motionless, seeing that Enoch has absolutely everything spelled out to the T as far as how the luminaries work around us. What that did is it reconfirmed what I had previously heard about the Bible and heard about Christianity. Now I actually went back and tested it. So flat Earth as an objectable, testable reality is actually what sort of reconfirmed the Holy Scriptures for me. Now that I've gone through and tested the Holy Scriptures, it's a double whammy. I have both the testable, observable results and what the Scriptures have to say about it.
Gotcha. Stephen Wilson says, I just want to thank him for all the entertainment Flat Earthers gives us. I guess that's a compliment, so I appreciate it. Next question is from Reno. Ask Awake to tell us the next date. Oh, it's the same question. She repeated it. TP Seeker. Has Jason seen Jeranism's vid of him catching the ISS with his P900 camera?
Yeah, so Jeranism is one of those big names in the fake flat Earth, and he says that he has caught the ISS. So Jeranism is the guy that supposedly proved curvature for the mockumentary Netflix video Behind the Curve. Right?
Is he a flat earther or is he a globe earther?
He says he's a flat earther, right?
Gotcha.
And he's the guy that the mockumentary used to say that Jaron proved curvature. Jaron says that he's filmed the ISS. Jaron's a Jesuit, all right? So Jaron's part of the Freemason New World Order cult. Right? It's an absolute cult. They believe in heliocentrism, or they believe in a domed Earth, and it's all the same cult. It all comes from the Vatican. And so, yeah, he says that he's filmed the ISS. I've actually made videos mocking it because it just looks like the little Star Wars TIE fighter that he CGI'd into his footage. Now, he's not the only one. There's another fake flat earther, the one that actually runs the conferences, that is now talking about filming the ISS as well. So these are Freemason, Jesuit, Knights Templar, Rosicrucian, Satanists that are running New World Order psyops.
Well, I actually know a lot of Freemasons. I've been to the Scottish Rite up here. They're very religious. They believe in God. So I don't know. They're not really Satanists. They align more with the Christian view.
Yeah, but do you know what Satan means?
No.
Satan means adversary. So anybody that's an adversary of the creator of the Bible, the Hebrew God, right? Anybody that's an adversary is a Satanist. So you, by definition, you are a Satanist right now. Now, when I was an atheist, was a Satanist at that time period. So if you're an adversary to the creator, the word Satan means adversary. Now it's been anthropomorphized, and Hollywood's made it into this big old psychology type thing of what we've seen in movies and stuff like that. But yeah, the deep down nitty gritty of it is if you are working as an agent against the creator of this world, you're a Satanist. It's shouldn't
Gotcha.
be so triggering, right?
I thought you were being more specific because like Satanism is like a particular religious branch, and then Freemasons, they like one of their requirements is you have to believe in God to be a part of the Freemasons.
So the Freemasons are Kabbalists. It's Kabbalah. That's, and going back to what I was talking about earlier, it's Kabbalism. So if you believe in heliocentrism, if you believe in atomism, you are a Kabbalist. So that's one of the things that you yourself right now, you think of yourself as an atheist where you feel like you don't believe in a creator, yet you are practicing the religion of the Kabbalists. Straight Vatican doctrine, heliocentrism, atomism,
Big Bang.
Big Bang. You might as well be a Jesuit, right, or Freemason yourself. I know that you had what, Nathan Thompson, you said,
Yeah,
and
debated him a few times. That was entertaining.
yeah. So there's one of your Freemasons. Then what's the crazy guy that you just talked with, Alex Stein, right? So his business card, he's has the Freemason. He's a Freemason. So are you a Freemason? Are you a Jesuit?
No, I am not allowed in to be a Mason because I don't believe in God. So I'm not allowed to be a Freemason. I just am an atheist.
Okay.
Lee Jam asks, sorry if this was covered, but why don't we have all daytime at the same time if the sun is above a flat Earth?
I would show you with the video. It's in the circle of sight, that day and night creation, day one, day and night, the way the sky rotates around the observer, the dark part of the sky, the light part of the sky, then the luminaries mixed in between. I've got the graphics that it literally show sunrise and sunset moving across the face of Earth on a flat plane. I'd love to show it to you.
Gotcha. Super chat from Good Question. Thank you for the super chat. Satan is man's adversary. He tests us. He is the quality checker used by Yahweh. He doesn't move a finger without God say so.
Okay. Satan is man's adversary. He tests us. Sure, yeah. So the story from the scriptures is that there was the fall from heaven. So if we're in a virtual reality, you've got characters. To be in this world, we have to be born in through women, right? Every single one of us got here by being born in through a woman, right? You agree?
For now, yes.
Okay. So the fallen, they came from heaven and took bodies here and then started breeding with the women that were here. So that group right there was a rebellious group. They're cut off, they're sentenced, they've been allowed to exist, but it's only until judgment time comes. And then, so the adversary is testing all of us. We've been allowed to be tested by the fact that we were told about heliocentrism. We were told about all these types of things where if you don't want to believe in a creator now, everybody's got some sort of plausible deniability for having been created where you can just go off and believe whatever you want to do. All right. So that's all because of the fall and the test from Adam and Eve, the fall of the wicked angels till now. It's all been a test. Satan's been used as a tool to implement the test. Right, you had to have the wickedness in the world in order to be tested.
Good Question asks, can airplanes travel behind the sun?
I wish I could bring up some footage right now. I can show you a plane flying through the sun. I'd love to see your reaction. All right, because
that would be epic. I would love to see that. That would be really cool. I would love to.
You have to come back and I'll show you all the candy footage.
For sure. Molasses asks, how does he explain the fact that you can measure a triangle on Earth's surface with 3 right angles only possible on a curved Earth?
Triangles work on flat planes. All right.
No, so he's right angle 45 degrees. If we're on a flat plane, that'll have to be less than a right angle. So right angles would lead to a square. Like you need 4 of them to get a square. But if you have 3 right angles that lead to a triangle, the only way to do that is if it's on a curved surface. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if you
So
have
that's just a mind warp. That there's no curvature. You don't see buildings tilting away from you out at the horizon. Everything's perfectly plumb. Floors are level. We're on a flat plane where water goes from higher to lower. The Suez Canal, right? You go from one body of water to another body of water with absolutely no locks. It's all level, 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 right? That's not curved water in the Suez Canal. Ships aren't going over a hump. Rivers don't run uphill. So the 3 right angles, you say 3 right angles, yeah, all that works in planar geometry where it's plumb is 90 degrees, right? That's plumb is 90 from the ground in all directions, and it doesn't change because we're on a plane. Spirit levels don't, when you fly around a globe, your spirit level doesn't, you're not going over a curve and your spirit level not showing that you're pitched, right? Airplanes fly level at the same altitude. They don't go upside down.
all right. Mr. Arthur asks, can you see other planets and moons are spherical? If those can be spheres, why can't the Earth be a sphere?
We're not talking about whether or not the Earth can be a sphere. We're talking about lights in the sky. I've zoomed in on them. I know exactly what they look like. They're simply lights in the sky. We're not a ball because of lights in the sky.
Well, he's asking, do you see those and are those spherical?
Sure, yeah. I've got the P1000. I got 125x, 3000 millimeter zoom. Like, you barely even have a telescope that's got that much.
Wrong one. Mr. Arthur, oh, that was the same one. Ask why the Russian Space Federation thinks the world is round, considering Russia is a Christian country.
Russia, a Christian country. No. So all the world powers are Freemason, New World Order controlled, right? The Federation, it's all societies. The New World Order, the Russians, the Americans, the Japanese, the Europeans, there's not a single country that's not being run by the Freemasons and Jesuits. The United Nations is a Freemason organization.
Oh, gotcha. On the right, super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Is Ye West onto something regarding global power?
I don't follow
Kanye.
Ye. I don't follow Ye, and it's not global power. All right.
All right. Good question. Has he said ISS is the ISS above the clouds?
There is no ISS. It's CGI.
Even though we can look at it through the telescope, it's still CGI with the telescope?
You can't see it with a telescope. That's what they're bringing up. That's the Jaren nonsense. There's no ISS. There's nothing floating in outer space. The highest that you can make it is like 230,000 feet. 300,000 if you're going super fast, but then you fall back to Earth. There's nothing floating up there.
Gotcha. Mr. Creaning asks, if you can't see beyond 50 miles, why don't we all have this wall of gray or haze or whatever in our vision? Why can we see the sun and the moon? It's because they are big. So it's same with Everest, I think.
Show me the footage of something 50 miles away. Everybody, you can't do it. If you can, you're gonna get into unique situations where you know what you have to do in order to spot it. You're gonna have to have perfect weather. You're gonna have to have a high enough observation, and then the thing in the distance is gonna have to be massive. It's gonna have to be a super tall building, or it's going to have to be a mountain of some sort that is identifiable. Right? So you're actually going to have to scope out these locations and have the perfect conditions in order to get observations of, let's say, 62, 63 miles. I don't have anything that is verifiable beyond that, other than CGI. So if you can do it, great. Show us something from 65 miles, but you're gonna see how hard it is to actually see something 30 miles away from you.
Clyde Sutherland asked, how does God tell you things?
I don't have voices inside my head. I seek, right? And as I seek, I feel paths open up where I feel led. I feel like information will come at the right time. A person will come at the right time. I'll get synchronicities and confirmations that I'm on a path, but there's no voice inside my head. I have to ask the questions, and I have to go searching.
Gotcha. Foxtrot Red asks, how does he know the God of the Jews is the real God and the demiurge?
That's what the Holy Scriptures say. You'd have to read the Bible, right?
Gotcha. TV Seeker asks, what's his reasoning of the lunar eclipse?
No, so that's a great one. Heliocentrism. I use the lunar eclipse to debunk heliocentrism. So I can explain it on a flat plane, but heliocentrists can't. I would love to bring up the graphics right now and show you that the lunar nodes, right? The lunar nodes, do you know what they are?
Nope.
Lunar nodes is the only time an eclipse is supposed to actually be able to take place, because you would be at equinox where the moon could actually be in the right path where it could be eclipsed. So if you're at the solstices, right, the heliocentric explanation is that they can't be an eclipse, even though there is. So the lunar eclipse absolutely debunks heliocentrism. It's the fourth debunk in my debunk video against heliocentrism, and it's a smasher. It's a smasher of one.
Good question. Thank you for the super chat. He asks, ask him if he'd like to hitch a ride on Blue Origin's rocket. I bet Jeff Bezos would love to send him.
No interest.
Like, I think it's a question of, if you were sent on a rocket to space and saw that the world was round, would that change your position, convince you otherwise, kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a hypothetical question, since they can't go up into outer space. 230,000 feet is really the limit as to how far something can go up in air, because there's no air pressure left. You can't push off of something that's not. Like, rocket theoretically cannot work in space. It's a stupid concept that you're going to have a thrust propulsion system pushing off of nothing.
Well, it can push off itself, can't it? Like, if you have two objects and you create an explosion, they're going to go away from each other. So if you're in space and you create an explosion, they're going to go opposite directions. And so that's what an explosion, like a rocket, would do, is it pushes the explosion.
No, you have to push off of something. You have to push.
Well, so like if I had a hand grenade and I put it in space and I blew it up, they'd go in all the different directions, right? They wouldn't just not move. They would move. Right?
Yeah, so let's play this space game. You're in your spacesuit, you're floating around in outer space, and you start walking with your legs. Are you going to go anywhere?
No.
The same is true with rocket propulsion.
Well, so with the grenade, though, if you have a grenade in space and you blow it up,
just blow up your spaceship. Sounds perfect. Great idea.
Well, the pieces of the grenade would go in every different direction. Wouldn't they? They would move apart.
Theoretically, in all directions, yes.
Right. So if I put a big dome around half of the explosions, they'd push against one side and against the other side, and my dome would get pushed one way, wouldn't it? Like, I have a grenade and a piece of metal around half of the grenade. Blow up the grenade, the piece of metal is going to get pushed in one of the directions, isn't it?
No, not in the emptiness of space where there's nothing to push against off of. It would just go to nowhere.
So there's a grenade. The grenade explodes. Half of the pieces go one way, half of the pieces go another way. And if half of the pieces hit a piece of metal, the force from those pieces will be transferred to the metal, won't it? And the metal thing will then move, right?
You take a propane torch that a plumber uses to solder pipes, right? You go up into outer space, you turn the pressure, you turn the propane torch on, it's not going to just go flying through space. Right? This is all theoretics, but because none of it's real. None of it's real. Your propane torch is not going to just start flying through space. The flame is just going to go into the empty vacuum of space. I mean, but this is all sci-fi movie nonsense. None of it's real. So we're just having fun theoretically talking about what would happen theoretically, right?
All right. So Adrian Fisher asks, ask him why we can see neutrinos from the sun from the opposite side of the Earth.
If I could screen share, I would ask you why can we see the atom? So the first picture of an atom, right? First picture of an atom. Atoms are an absolute psyop. Look up the first picture of an atom. Neutrinos are even worse than atoms. They're absolute non-realities.
What's a psyop?
Yeah. There's show me an atom. And I'd love for everybody to look up the first picture of an atom because it came out in 2018, and it's literally taken from a camera outside of a device, and then they crop zoom in on it. And yeah, so atomism is Kabbalism, just like heliocentrism is Kabbalism, and it's all Freemason, Jesuit, Vatican psyops. That's just the way it is.
Okay. Reno asks, ask Awake if I can kill my children if the creator says so. Or can I kill my children since I created it?
You didn't create it. Who created you? All right.
All right. Mike Winter asks, when skiing at Sunshine Village, you are 9,000 feet up. How does that find in his thinking?
Skiing at Sunshine Village, Europe. Yeah, so 8 to 9,000 feet. This is about the type of elevation that people can handle decently. And that's the reason why airplanes pressurize their cabins to a minimum of at least 8,000 feet. It would be better if we could have sea level pressure in airplanes, but they allow that 8,000 altitude, and yeah, that's you go above that point, and all of a sudden you become oxygen deprived. Now all of a sudden you actually have to start paying attention to how much oxygen you're using. You exercise hard, you try to burn something. Your vehicle operates different above those heights because of the lack of just air. It becomes less and less. At 29,000 feet, it's significantly less. And at 60,000 feet, the airplanes, the guys have to be in the pressurized spacesuits. It's no longer a pressurized airplane itself.
Gotcha. On the right, thank you for the super chat. FYI, I subbed to your rocket propulsion course. Do you have a rocket propulsion course? Okay.
No idea.
I don't think I have one either, but if I did, I would charge for it. Sebra Cadabra asks, why can't I see the Southern Cross from the Southern Hemisphere?
You can. Everybody can see the Southern Cross from the Southern Hemisphere as long as you're far enough south. If you're right at the equator, it might be a little difficult.
Gotcha. Thomas Jackson asks, ask him about the black sun.
It's something that was made up by the Freemason fake flat earthers, the one that do the pressurized pizza dome. Some of it call it Rahu and stuff like that. They run into having a problem with their model, how do eclipses work. So they made up the black sun, and it's satanic. The black sun is part of, like Soundgarden, black hole sun type stuff. So it's nonsense. It's a non-reality. There's no black sun.
Gotcha. Bryce Bushman asks, are there any non-Christian flat earthers?
Yeah, lots of them. Lots of them. Everybody that tests their reality actually checks to see if the earth is moving, checks to see if there's curvature. Every single one of those people end up becoming flat earthers that are intellectually honest with themselves. And usually they come from a non-Christian background. Now, whether or not they'll become Christian after having learned that earth is flat and that Enoch has the true cosmology, that's up to them. We'll see whether or not they do.
Gotcha. Molasses asks, is he aware that Yahweh Elohim was a pagan Canaanite deity?
Yeah, so Yahweh is the Tetragrammaton is YHWH. Right? In Paleo Hebrew, that's Yahweh. So it's not Yahweh. Yahweh is a pagan Canaanite deity, yes. So, but that's not the Father Creator. That's not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So Elohim just references a spirit creature, right? Yahweh, Elohim, yeah, that is a pagan Canaanite deity, but it has nothing to do with YHWH or Yahweh.
Gotcha. Next question is from Mireki. Were Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombed with nuclear weapons?
Nukes don't exist. They are a hoax. Atoms don't exist. It's a false explanation for materiality. But Hiroshima and Nagasaki, all the evidence shows that they were firebombed. There's no radiation there now. If nukes were real, there would still be, these would be areas cordoned off, not allowed for people to dwell within. This is like everyday life now. Just short time period later, it was rebuilt immediately. There was no sanitizing, scrubbing of the nuclear radiation from the time period. It was the concrete structures, the brick structures survived absolutely fine because it was just a firebombing. Yeah, nukes are a complete psyop. It's a huge thing. We could go into the weapon aspect of it.
What does
the
psyop mean?
Psychological operation. This is run by the New World Order agents, the Freemasons, Jesuits, Knights Templars.
Gotcha. Has he confirmed the Bible? How has he confirmed that the Bible wasn't written by Satanists? From Gleeport.
Well, if it was written by them, it would probably be false and not true or accurate. But it is true and accurate, and it actually spells the demise of the Satanists. So I doubt they would write the narrative that would ultimately destroy them. It seems counterintuitive to come up with like a whole narrative that destroys you and has you burning in hell for eternity.
Gotcha. TP Seeker asks, which Bible does Jason use?
So it's not just the 66 canon. That's the Old Testament and New Testament, like in the question here, but it's all inspired scripture. So there's Enoch, there's the Book of the Cave of Treasures, the Book of Adam and Eve. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of books that the Vatican has removed that were considered canonical, that were considered Holy Spirit inspired scriptures, that they've removed because they're too powerful. If people actually read all these books and knew what they had to say and how accurate they were, it's just too damning on the Vatican.
Gotcha. Logic 100, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Didn't come with a question though. Daniel Cooper, ask him why the pillars of Verenzio Narrows Bridge are a few inches further apart at the top than at the bottom. They are plumb and vertical because they have to be.
Yeah, so I know construction, bridges, all this kind of stuff. I don't build bridges, but I know what flat, I know what perpendicular, I know how these things are done. And So I'm happy to use any type of surveying equipment, lasers, um, transits, all these types of tools. And all of it is absolutely built on a plane where everything is built perpendicular to a plane. There's not a couple of inches, unless if it's by the design of the bridge for supporting weight. So
TB Seeper asks, like, which Bible do you use? As in, like, is there a name for the version, like the King James or whatever, for the particular version of the Bible you use? Is it named?
no, so we're in a time period where what we have is the concordance, where so there's all the different transliterations, where there's hundreds of different translations of the scriptures, and each one reads a little bit different than the other. So what I recommend is finding one that's written in English the way you like it, and then double check anything of importance against the concordance to see what the actual words were. So you have the Hebrew words, you have the Greek words, and it has the original meaning there. So you can actually see whether or not the person that has transliterated the scripture has transliterated it accurately or inaccurately. So anything of doctrinal importance, I recommend always going back and checking to see what the original meaning of those words are.
Gotcha. Coffee Mom, thank you for the super chat. I feel very incredibly in touch with reality now. Thanks. Appreciate it. DeFreak asks, what does he say about Jesus?
Jesus is a psyop name created by the Vatican, right? By the Jesuits. So the letter J was created in the 1500s, and it wasn't until the 1600s that the Jesuits made their secret society and they created the name Jesus, the Society of Jesus. Right. So with a brand new letter, it's a word that means earth pig. So once again, the Vatican is the one that promoted and created the name Jesus. They hate Christ the most. They are the most satanic of all. I mean, they are the mother of all the secret societies. They are the mother. They are Mystery Babylon. It's the harlot. So Christ in the story that's talked about in the scriptures, spot on and accurate. He came, he died for us. If we believe in him, we're going to be saved. But the scriptures do say that you have to call upon his true name. So I wouldn't go with the name that the Jesuits made up, because they hate him.
Che K asks, does the curved surface of a long wave tank suggest that there is a curvature to the Earth, as shown by hundreds of meters of long tanks in Europe?
Yeah, so a gutter, a seamless gutter, like the type you would have on a house. If you were to set a seamless gutter up down at the beach, and you had it supported, and that gutter you filled with an inch of water, and say your gutter was like 3 miles long, that gutter would be filled with 1 inch of water the entire way, and it would be the same height off of sea level the entire way. So there is no curved long tanks. It's a psyop. It's made up.
J.M. Claw asks, why can't you see Polaris from Australia?
Let's go back to the 50 miles again. Did anybody hear that you got to be able to see more than 50 miles, all right, in order to see another continent? Unless if you're up in Alaska looking over to Russia, because that's supposedly about 50 miles, right? The Bering
Gotcha.
Strait.
The Pope of Atheism says, I've toured Chernobyl. Was it not real?
It's supposed to be a thriving place right now, like the nature preserve. Like nobody's dying of radiation poisoning over there. In fact, you can look up the guy that swam in the radiation pools. He was famous for eating uranium. Galen Windsor, I think was his name. So radioactivity as opposed to radiation sickness is two completely different things. And yeah, Chernobyl was just an absolute big psyop to make people believe in nuclear energy.
All right. Gleep Glorp asks, how does electricity work if there's no atoms?
Atoms is a false explanation for materiality. So electricity works when you rotate like a piece of electrically conductive metal, such as copper, around a magnetic field. That's how electricity works. So you got to have the metal, you got to have the magnetic field, then you've got electricity. It can also be done chemically, but we're talking about the actual ways that electricity works. So this whole theory based off of atoms and all that kind of stuff, it's all CGI graphics. There's still ways to actually do it. You take some metal and rotate a magnetic field by it, and you got electricity, right?
All right. J Bird Max, last question, asks, there are a lot of powerful fictional writings. Why would the stories of the past somehow ring true? And there are literally over 100 gods. Why is his the one true God?
I'm just going with what the narrative from the Bible, from the holy inspired scriptures, like all the Bible books that refer to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and it's got the narrative from the first human till Christ, and here we are about 2,000 years later, and because it's the one that has all the accurate depictions of Earth, the way Enoch described Earth. It's gone in absolute contrast to heliocentrism. Right? It's right in the face of heliocentrism. The two are diametrically opposed, and I've seen that heliocentrism is bullshit, and that the narrative that is spelled out by the Holy Scriptures has been the accurate one. So that's the reason why I follow the Bible.
Gotcha. Well, we've been going for about 2.5 hours. Really appreciate it. It was a fun conversation. Do you want to give any links or references where people can find out about your work?
Yeah, just go to my channel, Awake Souls. Go to Beyond Flat Earth is a co-channel that I have with Ronnie Harris of the Limitless channel. And if you're interested, we could always come back and we could actually do this with graphics sometime. And I think it'd be people would probably enjoy that more.
Sure.
Instead of us just talking about it.
Definitely. Appreciate it. Thanks again. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right, you too.